Today we want to look at the 7 shepherds prophecy, which is found in Micah chapter 5. In part 1 of this study, we will see prophecies ranging from the birth of the Messiah in 2 BC all the way to the return of Israel in 1948. In part 2, we will go from 1948 to 1981. Verses 1 and 2 say, "Now muster yourselves in troops, daughter of troops. They have laid siege against us. With a rod they smite the judge of Israel on the cheek. But as for you, Bethlehem Ephratah, too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you one will go forth for me to be ruler in Israel. His goings forth are from long ago, from the days of eternity." To understand this prophecy, we must first identify who is the one who is from eternity, and what does that mean. In Philippians 2, verses 5 through 7, we're told that this is Jesus Christ. He has existed from eternity because he's God incarnate. Philippians 2, 5 through 7 says of Jesus Christ, who, although he existed in the form of God, did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking on the form of a bondservant, and being made in the likeness of man. This is telling us that Jesus Christ existed with God the Father in the form of God. We call this today the doctrine of the deity of Christ and the Trinity. He voluntarily gave up everything that means to become human, to die on the cross. With that in mind, let's go back to Micah. So the one who has existed from the days of eternity is the one that will be born in Bethlehem. This is what verse 2 is saying. This verse is partially quoted in Matthew chapter 2, verses 4 through 7, which says, "Gathering together all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he," this is Herod, "inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They said to him, In Bethlehem of Judah, for this is what has been written by the prophet." Matthew then quotes Micah 5:2, "And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah, for out of you shall come forth a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Notice the second part of verse 1. "With a rod they smite the judge of Israel on the cheek." Since we know that the judge of Israel is the one born in Bethlehem, we know it to be the Messiah. And in Matthew 27, 26 and 30, says when Jesus was handed over to be crucified, they beat on him, spit on him, and actually struck him in the head with a rod. We know that because Israel rejected the Messiah, Jerusalem was given over to be destroyed by the Romans. This occurred in 70 AD. With that in mind, let's reread verses 1 and 2. "Now muster yourselves together in troops, O daughter of troops. They have laid siege against us. With a rod they smite the judge of Israel on the cheek." The prophet is saying because the Jews handed over the Messiah to the Romans to be killed, God handed over Jerusalem to the Romans to be destroyed. But Bethlehem, in the province of Ephratah, in the land of Judah, would be spared because the Messiah was born there. Verses 3 and 4. "Therefore he will give them up until the time when she who is in labor has borne a child. Then the remainder of his brethren will return to the sons of Israel." Verse 3 is saying, as a result of Israel rejecting the Messiah, not only was Jerusalem to be destroyed, but the nation of Israel would be dispersed among the nations. This occurred in stages, starting with the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, and then the Bar Kokhba rebellion triggered the last great uprising, which was crushed in 132 AD. The nation of Israel ceased to exist and didn't come back into existence until 1948 AD. The nation of Israel would be dispersed for 1,816 years. Then she who is in labor has borne a child, and the remainder of his brethren will return to the sons of Israel. Over the last 60 years, since 1948, Jews have been consistently migrating into the land of Israel. Notice verse 4. "And he will arise and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they will remain, because at that time he will be great to the ends of the earth." This is obviously talking about the return of Jesus Christ at the second coming to set up his millennial reign, because at that time his kingdom will be great to the ends of the earth. So verses 3 and 4 introduce us to the time of 1948 to the second coming. Notice what happens during this time. Look at verse 5. This one, that is, the Prince of Peace, the Messiah, the one born in Bethlehem, whose kingdom extends to the end of the earth. This one will be our peace when the Assyrian invades our land, when he tramples our citadels. Then we will raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 leaders of men. The first thing we need to see is, who is the Assyrian, or Assyria, mentioned in this prophecy, and who are these 7 shepherds? Obviously, when the one, who is our peace, destroys the final Assyrian, is referring to the second coming and the Battle of Armageddon. So who or what is Assyria? To understand this, let's look at Balaam's 4th oracle. This is found in Numbers 24, verses 23 and 24. The fulfillment of this occurred between 40 BC and 132 AD. Verse 23 says, Then he took up this discourse and said, Alas, who can live except God has ordained it? But the ships shall come from the coast of Kittim, which we've already seen in Daniel's study, is Rome, and they shall afflict Asher. Asher was the firstborn son of Shem, and the founder of the ancient Assyrian Empire. So this is Assyria. And it says, will afflict Eber. Eber was a distant relative of Abraham, and from his name we get the term Hebrews. So this is referring to the nation of Israel. So they will also come to destruction. This verse is referring to the time when Roman ships came and first afflicted Assyria and then afflicted Eber. The result was they were both destroyed. The ancient land of Assyria at that time was called Syria and was being ruled by Greeks from Alexander's kingdom. In the Roman-Parthian wars, Syria was completely devastated and split up between Parthia, which is Persia, and Rome. By 40 BC, Syria was split up, had no government, and no army. For all basic purposes, it ceased to exist. Then we know in 132 AD, the nation of Israel was dispersed among the nations and ceased to exist. So now we know for sure Kittim is Rome, Eber is Israel, and Asher, or Assyria, is referring to modern-day Syria. So let's look at Micah 5:5 again. The Messiah will be our peace when he destroys the final Assyrian that invades Israeli land. When he tramples the citadels, we will raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 leaders of men. So this verse is telling us between the time of 1948 and the second coming, Israel will raise up 7 shepherds and apparently war with the ancient land of Assyria, which is current-day Syria. This is the end of part 1. Visit us at BibleFacts.org and WordOfProphecy.net for the next in this series, where we will look at the Syrian wars that occur between 1948 and the second coming.